Void Mage Gamer is now partnered with Flipside Gaming, so you can use the promo code on their website, all caps Void Mage, to get 10% off all orders $10 or more. It's a great way that you can support both Flipside Gaming and Void Mage Gamer's channel. Hello guys, welcome back to one of my favorite video series that I do, underrated commander cards. I usually choose 10. I don't know, just something about finding 10 cards that maybe not a lot of people have that much confidence in, or maybe they just never seen this card, or they've never seen anything like it with potential. I get that a lot. I get people that have seen the card before, seen cards like it, just never thought about the potential for commander play, and that's really what the series is meant for. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. First one we have is Lightning Coils. This is a really old card and it hasn't been reprinted. It's really obscure. There's not really too much like it, especially in red where you have something that makes red creature tokens. It's all based on how many creatures you have, how many non-token creatures you have die. You get a charge counter for each one of them. And if it has 5 or more of those charge counters during your upkeep, you remove all of them and then you create that many 3/1 hasty red creature tokens that are ready to attack any opponent you want to. The cool thing about this card is that you could have multiple charge counters on it. Think about all the commander decks that love killing off creatures that aren't necessarily in red but can take advantage of this. I'm thinking about Aetherios, God of Passage, Marina Clan Neltoth, Shirei, Shizo's Caretaker. A lot of cool things you can do with this card. I mean, if you have 10 charge counters on it, you got 30 power swinging at someone. With really only 3 mana invested into this card, I think it's insane. It's just going to stay out there. You can always get more counters on it and do it all over again. I think it's pretty cool. The next card is Loyal Unicorn. This is from the newest Commander set in 2018. I love the Lieutenant mechanic. This one is even better than a lot of the other ones I've seen. Has Vigilance, gives all of your other creatures vigilance, and pretty much makes them indestructible. You basically just prevent all the combat damage that would be dealt to them. Yeah, it doesn't stop your opponents from removing them with instant speed removal, but if you have certain commanders with tap abilities, this is very useful because then you can swing with them first with vigilance, deal whatever damage you want to deal with them, and then use their tap abilities. That's also a very underrated thing about the card. But in white, you just want to be aggressive. You want to keep your foot on the pedal. Also in Boros strategies, this is really cool. Just giving yourself absolutely no reason to not want to attack. I think for one of those under the radar cards that come out in the set, it's pretty damn good. The next we have Blind Seer. This card is really cool and I like including legendary creatures, commander options that maybe not a lot of people would consider. This is really obscure. You don't see anything like it. All the way back from Invasion. You could pay 2 mana and target spell or permanent becomes the color of your choice until end of turn. You're probably wondering what might be so good about that, but when you think about all of the color specific cards that this game has to offer, especially within blue, so something like a Hydroblast is suddenly able to destroy really whatever permanent you want to destroy, seeing as you can turn any permanent red. You could even turn a land red, or anything that has bounce removal, where you can bounce all creatures of a certain color. Well, you could turn certain creatures into certain colors. Very useful, very weird. But then again, something isn't underrated just because it's powerful and not a lot of people know about it. It could be underrated just because I think it's really fun, it's really obscure, makes you think outside of the box, and it's just overall fun to build around. And then next we have another really obscure blue legendary creature in Mistform Ultimus. Mistform Ultimus is every creature type, so literally anything, tribal synergy, slivers, wizards, merfolk, whatever you can think of within mono blue. You can throw those synergies into one deck and just fool around with Mistform Ultimus. So if you have a zombie Lady of Scrolls, you could tap the Mistform to draw yourself a card. And of course, slivers are slivers, so giving this flying or anything else is amazing. Again, it's just one of those commander options that is so weird that not a lot of people feel confident enough to play it, or they just don't know about it. I mean, again, another old card that hasn't really seen any recent printings, but I think is perfect for any commander product. And quite frankly, if you're looking for budget commander options, the 2 I just mentioned I think are spectacular. The cards that you want to throw into them aren't too expensive, and the deck, while it isn't threatening, I think it can be pretty fun. And the next we have Mind Slash. Just a 3 mana enchantment that's going to sit on the field. You can pay 1 mana to sacrifice a creature. Target opponent reveals their hand. You get to choose a card from their hand. They discard that card. So it's basically like Thoughtseize. You can pretty much choose any card though. And you can just keep doing this for 1 mana and sacrificing a creature. Within Black and Commander, you have so many options. You could throw it into something like Endrixar, a deck that is built around just giving you a ton of creature tokens. Or you could throw it into something where you like sacrificing creatures, having creatures die in Marin. It's another outlet. You don't see a lot of cards like Thoughtseize or Duress in Commander, but this is better because you can keep doing it. It's the same thing as Sadistic Hypnotist, where you can just repeatedly do something, even if it is just at sorcery speed. Taking the best stuff out of your opponent's hand in one turn is spectacular. And then next we have another pretty cool black card. This one is just insane. If you want to have fun in Commander, play cards like these because you don't really have to be involved that much. Cruel Entertainment, the way you're supposed to play this, you could choose yourself just so you can take control of someone else's turn. But the ideal way to do this is just sit back and watch two people hate each other. And I like playing Chaos decks. One of my personal favorite commanders to do that with is Corona False God, because then you can just give her to your opponents and they already hate each other more than they hate you, so they're probably going to swing at each other with Corona. Cruel Entertainment, you get to watch either a beautiful friendship deteriorate or you can instigate an argument. You get to sit back, enjoy it all, watch it unravel, and you're probably not going to get hated out of the game for using something like this, because whenever someone else is touching someone else's cards, making their decisions for them, they're public enemy number one. They're usually going to get hated on before you do. So playing something like this, I think, is very underrated. And next we have a good one. This one does see a lot of play. A lot of people do like it. I do think this card is underappreciated. I think a lot of people know about it, but just good value in red is Hoarding Dragon. You get to search your library for any artifact card, and then you just get to exile it. And Hoarding Dragon, when it dies, you get it to your hand. You don't see this too often in red, where you just have a straight up tutor for whatever card you want. It's usually with a condition, such as with the card Gamble, you have to randomly discard a card, which can be kind of a pain. But you get precision, you get to choose exactly what artifact you want. And you also get value in card advantage. You have the ability to get it back, take advantage of the ETB so that you can get multiple searches. It is truly a brilliant card in red, and definitely one that I try to throw into as many mono red decks as possible, because what it does is just too good to not take advantage of. And if you have any kind of aristocrat strategy where your deck is filled with a lot of similar death triggers, I think it fits in perfectly. And then we have Ravenous Slime. This is another awesome card from Commander 2018. Very similar to Kalidas, where you can pretty much replace any instance of die on your opponent's creatures with just exile. So things like Blood Artist aren't going to trigger. Things like Kokosho, the Evening Star, aren't going to trigger, because all of those creatures, they need things to die in order to do stuff. Ravenous Slime is a very cheap creature, only 3 mana in green. A really good thing here is that it doesn't affect any of your creatures dying. They can just die normally. It gets bigger. It's a 1/1 to start out with, so it does have that trade-off, but it's just going to keep getting bigger, equal to the power of creatures that would die. The card is easily one of my favorites to come out of Commander 2018, and I think that utility of Graveyard Hate is incredibly underrated on cards like this. And if you're looking to build on a budget, I mean, hey, pretty solid card to throw into your green deck. Then we have Orym's Thunder. I like removal for artifacts and enchantments. You know what I like better? Having that with the addition of burning your opponents. The kicker cost is just 1 red, so it's really just 4 mana to do both things. But if you think about a lot of the expensive artifacts in the format, you have things like Mirror Battlesphere, you have expensive enchantments, things like Omniscience you can deal with, although that may be a little bit harder to deal with without your opponents easily answering you. The point being is that there's a lot of expensive artifacts and enchantments, and being able to deal that much damage to them in addition to destroying it for just 4 mana, I think is pretty good. If you're looking for budget options in Boros, a solid color pairing, but there's not really much outside of the typical linear strategy, so I tend to go with more of a budget build for Boros decks, and I think Orym's Thunder is a pretty good card if you're looking for artifact enchantment hate, while also trying to keep some pressure on your opponents. And then the last card we have here is Brian Stoutarm, or Brian. I don't know, I like Brian better. Why is he called Stoutarm? Because his arm's stout, I guess. But he's lifelink. He can tap for 1 red mana to sacrifice a creature of yours and basically fling it at one of your opponents. Downside here is that you can't hit creatures, but you can hit planeswalkers. The Oracle text is kind of weird right now. For some reason in Masters 25, which is the most recent version, they forgot to do that. But the ideal way to play with Brian, which is probably the most unique way that you can play Boros in Commander, is just steal your opponent's stuff with things like Active Treason, things that you probably wouldn't see in the average Commander deck because they're really just limited cards, things you would see in Draft and Sealed. Stealing your opponent's creatures, flinging them at them. I think that's hilarious, especially when you're also gaining life off of Brian. You have a pretty cool under the radar type of commander. Not really as obscure as the two that I showed you before in blue. He does see a little bit more play and he is kind of a fan favorite within Boros. Just because he is kind of the more unique Boros commander, he doesn't just focus on combat. But if you want to throw in something like Hoarding Dragon, you kind of get the idea of what you want to do with a deck. Focus on creatures with death triggers, aristocrats, where you just have nothing but value off of your creatures dying, and you get to take your opponent's massive creatures, sacrifice them, and also deal damage to your opponents. Just a hilarious and fun commander to play with. Again, you can build it on a budget. Not a very complicated commander, but can be quite enjoyable. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoy these 10 underrated commander cards. You guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.